Today's draft mission is simple. I want to snag 3 players. Anthony Davidson, the running back that combines receiving ability with some really good athleticism, is 1. Jeff Beverly might not be the most impressive tackle you've ever seen, but he's the best option available at our biggest position of need. And then Corey Rucker has a very interesting blend of athleticism and power rushing that wants me to take him, despite the fact that I rarely take 23-year-olds in the Madden class. So, with our goals now set, let's go ahead and hop into this class. Last year, I think we had a really impressive class, and I don't think we're going to be able to replicate that this year. It's just not realistic with our picks being much worse and just having less picks in general. The Pittsburgh Steelers get this not go with a quarterback, Baker Mayfield, for next season for them. So we will not get a rookie quarterback in our division next year. The one other option I had in this class was to try and trade up for the tackle Carrington. He ended up going number 3 overall. He would have needed to fall significantly farther for a trade up to be possible. He would have had to go below his projection, not well above it. So that puts us on the clock at 25 for our first pick in this class. Taking a look at the prospects available, had safety remained a big time need for us, I think Jamil Tuck would have been under heavy consideration here, but the acquisition of Brian Branch made me not think safety was maybe the way to go in round 1. That was maybe the one position that was good in this draft that we're just not really going to need as much anymore because of free agency. So at that point, it became time to look for trade down options. I didn't love any of the generated ones. So after working out with the Cowboys a little bit, we end up getting a 2 and 2 3s to go down. I wanted some more picks in this class because the 2nd and 3rd round is really where I saw us having the best fit of team need and player talent available. The question was, now back on the board at pick 42, who do we select first? And so I wanted to take a look at the consensus board to see who was projected to go off first. We do have 2 selections now in the 2nd round, so that gives us some more optionality. And I see Davidson being projected 53rd, while the tackle was down there at 61. So that gives me the inclination to go Davidson with our first selection of the 2. But I also wanted to see how many players above them were at their positions. And even though Davidson is ranked 53rd, he has 4 running backs projected higher than him on the board, while Jeff Beverly is the number 1 offensive tackle available. And I think we really would risk losing him should we not take him here. He ends up being the 41st player in true value in the class, but normal developments with our first pick in the class is rough. It sucks to get normal development at all times, but it especially sucks at the offensive line. You can't get normal dev there. It is so hard to develop offensive line already, even when they have star development. So the next up was our running back, and after back-to-back running backs go at 43 and 44, I think it was time to start looking to make our trade up. Remember, we only get 1 trade up and 1 trade down every draft. Didn't seem like anything was going to be able to go with the Chargers here, but then the Seattle Seahawks take another running back at 47, and so it started to become a little bit more urgent. I added an extra 4th rounder to the offer we gave to the Chargers. It was nearly enough, and the 6th rounder pushed it over the edge. And we trade up to pick 48 to select Anthony Davidson. I think he's the player I'm most excited to take in this class. I think he's an excellent complement to what we have already with Ernie McFerrin. Adds some serious juice and some receiving ability to hopefully create a nice 2-man backfield for years to come. Front office seems excited, as does Anthony here. Hoping we can do better than we got. And we do get hidden development here for the 21-year-old running back. And 94 speed coming out of the backfield is very high end. No! Corey Rucker goes 2 picks before our 3rd round selection here. Oh man, that hurts. So we cannot complete the pre-draft plan we had. I was out of trades, could not trade up because of the rules that I had made, or else I probably would have tried to trade up about 5 or so spots to get more safe in getting him. The tight end available here, but didn't really love his skill sets. I kind of put him on his board because of his athleticism and the fact that it would be a second Daniel Gibson we would have drafted here. Middle linebacker is another spot I think we could draft. We have 2 good ones, but in times that we put 3 linebackers on the field, we really needed another one. Sheldon Edens ends up being the pick here. Really good athleticism, good coverage ability, and hidden development here. So much like last year, in the 3rd round, we are forced to not go with our plan A, and it ends up being a linebacker. Now we get to the very tail end of day 3, where the pickings are very slim. Even though he has guaranteed UDFA talent, he was the only safety with NFL level athleticism, so we take Barrington here. We only have 3 safeties on the roster in total, so for the last 2 picks, we go with safeties just so that we have enough safeties on the roster to field a roster in training camp. That's basically the reason why I went safety with these picks. Ultimately, we end with just a 5-player class, and at first glance, doesn't look entirely impressive. I think there are a number of factors that lead into that. We were a playoff team this year, so our picks obviously weren't as high in the rounds, and then that combined with, I think, just the draft, the value in the draft didn't super fit up well with what we wanted in round 1. We didn't have round 2 pick naturally, and then just getting super unlucky by getting sniped at that 3rd pick. I'm excited to see what we missed out on, but Jeff Beverly, unfortunate here to just get normal development, because he looks like a pretty solid player. The athleticism is good enough, and the other ratings are pretty solid, starting with 80 pass block power, but that normal development certainly puts him behind the 8 ball. We're gonna see if we can find a way for that to get up, but there's really so few opportunities for offensive linemen to develop their dev trait that I think, despite the fact that we used our first pick in the draft on it, I don't know if we actually solved our right tackle problem, which is, not a good sign. Anthony Davidson, I think 73 overall. I think is a pretty fun prospect to add here with 80 juke and spin move off rip. He certainly needs to work on being a better runner, but he's just going to be in that 3rd down role. He's basically going to take the Kenny Gainwell role for us this year. Fumbles will be something that we'll have to worry about with him, but I think we'll just dump a lot of his upgrades into elusive back, because I think he's good enough as a receiver already. So with the speed, if we can make him a good elusive back along with it, I think we could get ourselves somebody that will play a nice long-term role here in this series. And then Sheldon Edens, I think it's going to be a fun player to see what he can do in flashes this year. And of course, if there's ever an injury to JOK or to Ben Folds, then Edens' role will expand, and I think he can take it on. He's got solid block shedding as well. Who knows if he impresses enough, he might even be able to overtake Ben Folds. Who knows? But I think our linebacker situation is now in a really good spot with Folds, JOK, and Sheldon Edens on the team for the foreseeable future. And then these safeties, they were just because we had literally 3 total safeties, and one of them was 34 years old coming into the draft this season. So we just needed some bodies. We're talking about mid-6th and the very end of the draft here, so there's not much in the way of expectations for these guys. Taking a look at the draft as a whole, and good night, the number 1 pick in the draft. I mean, hard to fault the Steelers for their draft strategy of adding Baker Mayfield so they could take Brent Greco, number 1 overall, who already has 90 finesse moves, which is insane. I gotta see this guy's dev traits. Superstar X Factor being added to the division along the defensive line. That is tough to see. Robert Carrington was the guy I would have drafted if we really had any sort of shot at him, and he would have been a good pick, but That was obviously just always going to be off the table. 74 overall to start, even at, as a top 3 pick, is still fairly low. Taking a look at the quarterbacks that were added to the league this year, you have Mac Olson, hidden dev, 73 overall. He has ideal sense of pressure, conservative decision maker. This is probably the kind of type of player that this team could use at quarterback. Somebody who, of course, has the... Did I just see... Oh, yeah, I forgot there was a 20-year-old quarterback in this class. This dude's 20 years old, too. Are we not taking Donnie Richardson? We had a top pick. This guy definitely would have been on my radar. Not a superb athlete, but... look like a potentially really fun pick because he's going to get some major development early on in his career. Other quarterbacks that went, DeAndre Bushard was the guy projected to go as the first quarterback off the board. Paranoid sense of pressure, though, is pretty rough for him, and that'll be Tampa's quarterback. There's another guy who went to the Saints down the board in the first round, Patrick Sheldon. Hidden development on all these guys, which is nice. He's got a big arm at 95 throw power. He also has ideal sense of pressure, so pretty solid quarterback class here. We had a really nice receiver go early here in Christian Rowland. 96 speed on him is pretty nice. If we go ahead and sort by overall, I just see the best players in the class, where I'm sure Greco will be number 1. Also, Drew McKee as an 83 overall center. Okay. 23 years old, sure, but I mean, a 92 strength at pass protector is very rare, and I guess that's why he's 83 overall to start. So there were a couple of chances to get an 80 plus overall in this class to meet our pre-draft goal, I guess. And then at the top of the second round, the Steelers get the 3rd best player in this class, who is a 78 overall pass protecting interior offensive lineman. The Steelers really needed a good draft, and they absolutely got one. Rashad Kyle goes to the Cowboys. Here's a defensive tackle. Couldn't really have taken him. He was, of course, a top 10 pick, and we didn't pick until well after that. But then after that, you get into the 76-75 range, which every draft has a bunch of. Definitely need to take a look at the defensive tackle we missed out on, Corey Rucker. Again, there wasn't really much I could do here. He does end up with normal development, which helps me feel a little bit better about it. But 80 power moves, 86 acceleration, 93 strength. That would have been a fun player, no doubt about it. But at least we can hang our hats on the fact that he was normal development. But were there any 75 pluses that went in round 5, 6, or 7? No. No. And no. So the game gives you a goal that's literally impossible in like 90% of classes. It's so dumb. But I gotta stop talking about these Madden scenarios here. Let's go ahead and talk about what happened elsewhere in the division. The Bengals took a round 1 running back here in Denario Porter, who looks pretty solid here at a 74 overall and hidden development. You got a couple other, no, that was their second round pick. That's a pretty good pick. First round pick was Barry Schmidt, an interior power rusher here. 71 overall. Not great for a first round pick, but hidden development. And then you have Kurt Jackson, normal dev, 91 speed middle linebacker they selected in the 3rd round. Then let's go ahead and look at the Steelers. We've already seen their first 2 picks, and then they got another 70 plus overall here. Nick Truman, pretty solid there on the speed. Not much of a run blocker on that guy. And then lastly here we have the Ravens. Went with Melvin Childress, pass protector, just 80 strength though. That's why he wasn't on my radar for sure, but good pass blocking ratings there at the left tackle spot. Deontay Drayton, he was probably my second favorite safety on the board. 91 speed, 77 zone coverage, 83 hit power. So I liked this player. Didn't end up prioritizing safety in this class. And one of the best ones goes into the division. Eli Little, 74 overall. So they went with pass protector on the offensive line. That's not something I would expect of the Ravens, but that's what they did here in this class. Got a couple of solid ones. Ultimately, I think it's hard to argue that the Steelers had the best draft in the division this year. They did have the #1 pick, which gave them, of course, a big leg up. We had 25, and we didn't have a second rounder, but I still think there's at least an argument to be made that we could have had maybe the second best draft in the division, with Davidson and Edens being the two kind of highlight players of this class. Let me know what you thought of this draft, what you would have done differently, if anything at all. But ultimately, I think we got some guys that are going to play. Jeff Beverly might play for us over Conklin. Davidson's certainly going to factor in the running back rotation, and Edens is going to be one of the 3 linebackers in the base formation on the field for us this year. So maybe not any stars in this class, but certainly some contributors, and we'll see what they could do to try to help this Browns team trying to improve on their divisional round appearance and loss to the division rival Bengals last season. And that's going to wrap up the draft and offseason here in the Cleveland Browns franchise. We've got year 3 upcoming. Episode, what are we at now? 17, something like that. The next episode starting of the season will be coming out soon, and I'll see you then. Go Browns.